Monica. And then we're going to have an opportunity to actually ask any questions of the speakers today that you may choose to go through. So just as a high level perspective, let's have a talk about enrolments, right? So what do enrolments mean? And ultimately, when we talk about enrolments, we look at these kind of three key areas. So we've got the attraction side of things. So that's where you're looking to market or engage with families initially, trying to have them kind of consider your school compared to other schools. Then there's the actual process of securing them. So getting them to lock into your school, to commit, whether it's a couple of years ahead or whether it's they've just moved to a new location, whatever that engagement process looks like, and making that a smooth transition from a previous school or to your school or something like that. So that's the kind of securing side of things. And then really the retention. No school really wants to have a family start 1 minute and then leave 5 minutes later. That's not good for the school. It's also not a good educational outcome and can be a real nightmare to manage from administration or even just the kind of pastoral care component as well. So retention within a school is really, really tricky sometimes, especially given that if you've got some schools, if you think about the school career, if it's like 12 years long, say, there's going to be ups and downs within that period. So retention becomes a really big factor in making sure that that can be maintained ongoingly. So just to touch on Edstart, and then I'll pass to the speakers after that. So for those who are not aware, Edstart is a leading fee management company. So our goal is to make effectively fees easier for both schools and parents. You can see here that we work with schools all across the country. In fact, there's about 650 or so of them at the moment, all the way from some of the biggest schools in the country all the way down to some of the smallest schools in the country. And it's our absolute pleasure to work with them. One thing which we're really proud about as an organisation is the actual way that families respond to the nature of our work. Our focus is to be very pastorally led, so making sure that we understand the ups and downs of a family's journey. We realise that education, and especially when it comes to independent education, it's usually a big choice, and it's something which a lot of families aspire to do, and can be often a scenario where they kind of push themselves to the limit in some scenarios to actually facilitate. And we know that you have to kind of lead with kindness when it comes to making sure that we can maintain that. And the feedback we get from the families that we work with has been nothing short of world-class, as you can kind of see here from the NPS score. So that's something we're really proud of, and it's certainly our pleasure to support the school community more broadly when it comes to a range of different activities. Some snippets here on the slide of what we call the Edstart Achievers Award, where we do our best to highlight some of the amazing talent from the school kids all across the country in different types of scenario, entrepreneurial, some types of social, and even music as well. So highlighting some of the amazing talent which is there, and it's certainly our way to kind of give back. But in terms of today, what we're going to really focus on is taking a look at the enrolment side of things. So why is it so important, and why is sustainability so important? Well, arguably because it takes up such a big portion of a family's expenses when it comes to the household budget. So if you just take a look at the slide here, as you can see, the ranges, they vary from 39% of the household budget in South Australia. Obviously drops a little bit into Queensland, but even Victoria, it's right up there as one of the biggest expenses that a household will incur. And in many cases is actually more significant than any household mortgage, which of course has been all across the news recently. So it's not a small part of the family budget. And changes to this will, of course, mean quite a significant impact for the family itself. If we just take a look briefly at what's happened to incomes over the last 12 months or so. So this data basically suggests that there hasn't been much of a change in the income side of things for the household. So pretty much the same, a slight increase on the right-hand side, which shows this year's data. However, if you look at the kind of balance sheet of the household, actually the debt side of things has increased for most families. In some ways, this is $25,000 here in terms of the actual average mortgage. For some people, that's quite significant, especially in some parts of the country. I know in Queensland, there's been a 17% in some of the debt increase of a mortgage level in just 1 year. So for some areas, it's been very significant and quite sudden for many. We've also seen that the household expense to income ratio, of course, has then changed. And this is this year's data and doesn't actually factor in potential increases that you might see next year. And that's why a webinar like this is so timely, is because, of course, we all know that we're moving into fee announcement periods. Some of you or many of you may have even kind of gone through that process already. And the purpose of this webinar is to kind of help put you on the front foot to make sure that you've got strategies and tools up your sleeve and you're across basically best practice to make sure that we can maintain that moving forward. So without further ado, I'm actually going to pass over to Greg Campitelli. Greg, again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure, Michael. And I might just share my screen if I can. If you can just stop sharing your screen and I'll take over.
By all means, there we go. Should be there.
Thank you, sir. I think I'll just be able to share now. And hopefully you can see my screen on board now.
We can indeed.
Lovely. So we're absolutely thrilled to be working with Jack Stevens and the team from Edstart. Enquiry Tracker, a little bit about me. I've been working in the education and not-for-profit sector for 40 years. If you say that quick enough, Jack, it doesn't feel that long. Teacher, Director of Development, Board Member. I've done numerous marketing, alumni and philanthropic plans. I co-host a program streamed globally called Ticker Ed via the global news streaming service, which is a program on thought leadership and education. I'm co-founder of Enquiry Tracker. Can you always find me on LinkedIn if you'd like to. Enquiry Tracker was founded in 2018. It's designed and purpose-built for K-12 schools. It really is our bookends are to grow and manage enrolments and nurture future families on a beautiful journey and make that customer service experience exemplar. Because if you do, you will increase your inquiry to enrolment ratio, which is a figure that often most schools or many schools don't know. You want to be able to provide instant data and analytics for the school to make important strategic decisions. And importantly, our staff all come from a marketing admissions background. If you're looking for a new career, give me a call. We're currently working with 300 schools, Michael, across the 3 sectors, Catholic, independent and state, across 5 countries, but with that one design focus that's been purpose-built for education. So in terms of, that's a bit about us, but let's talk about theory. Why track inquiries? Well, pretty simply. Firstly, more inquiries equals more enrolments. The more managed the inquiry, the more likely the person is to enroll. So you get an increased conversion ratio. So this is about stewardship and management of the experience. I spoke to a school the other day that said, oh, we've got people who've applied 5, 6, 7 years out, but we don't talk to them until it's 1 year out. Well, really? That's just not good enough. Not in today's world. In terms of the more engaged the family, the more stewarded the family will significantly impact on word of mouth. Word of mouth is not a reason for selection. Why did I choose St Trinian's? Oh, because of word of mouth. Word of mouth is an outcome of the great work you are doing in marketing the school. So think about that as an outcome, not as a reason for selection. Jack and I could do a whole webinar on that. This increases brand enhancement, which increases inquiries because word of mouth is increasing brand enhancement. Everyone's saying how great the school is. So therefore more inquiries increase, which increases demand. And guess what? Then you've got a wait list. So if you understand that journey, then you can build sustainable enrolments, which is the topic of this webinar. So if I look at the challenge though, so that's all very well, Greg, but what's the challenge? So in my school, I've got too many disparate systems that store inquiries. I lack the resources and I'm multitasking. It's time consuming to enter data into spreadsheets or my student information system, whatever I use. It's difficult to manage tour and open day attendance and metrics. I don't really have the ability to profile future years by demographic and geographic data. My principal and my board are always asking me to create reports, which eats into my day. I really find it hard to maintain long-term relationships with future families because I don't have the time to get things done. So for us, the answer is one of 3 things. You ask for more staff. Jack, I don't know about you, but I have never had a school that I've spoken to, no matter how small or how big, that says, no, we're good. Got plenty of staff, we're right. No, don't need anything. Just leave us alone. So no matter how small or how big, all schools want more staff. But guess what? That's a $100,000 decision. Maybe it's a $150,000 decision. You can do nothing and hope. That's what most schools do. I'll do the same thing that I did last year and hope it gets better. I hope for change. Or you investigate technology like Edstart and like Enquiry Tracker. Use technology to help you solve problems and attract more inquiries and build sustainable enrolments. Think about the hours. Let's say you work, I don't know, 40 hours a week. You say, Greg, I'm doing 50. I'm doing 60. I do a lot more than 40, I can tell you. Let's say you work 44 weeks per annum. That is, by my calculation, 1,760 hours. They are precious hours. Most families complete their activities for a school, whatever they are, whether it's a financial form that they're filling out or an inquiry form or an application form or a letter of offer form or whatever. They're doing it at night, on the weekend, or in the school holidays when you are not at work. So if you apply resources like what Enquiry Tracker offers you, they work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, which is 8,760 hours. So the simple mathematics is what? 4 or 5 times what you can do. So it's like using tech like what Jack's company does and what our company does will dramatically change the way you work. So I think that's really important. I know Michael's touching on the investment and the share of household income that fees are. And let's face it, after buying a house, and many families can't afford that, the choice of schooling is one of the largest investments a family will ever make. And this is the important bit that I'll say. Regardless of the fees a family pays, their feeling is the same. I pay good fees, insert number, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. And therefore, I expect great customer service. And if I'm not getting it, I will not keep going to your school, or I will leave. I won't continue with my application. And if I'm at the school, we've had the rise of the helicopter family. I'm not happy, I'm leaving. Boom, out. So this stewarding can't be underestimated. So if we think at a school as $10,000 per annum, and I know there's plenty of schools on this call right now that are $20,000 and $30,000 per annum, but you can do the math. If you're a K-12 school, that's 13 years, and that equals $130,000, and that's not CPI adjusted. And that doesn't allow for government grants either. Most families have more than one child, so do the mathematics. Maybe they've got 3 kids, a friend and a cousin. So the value of that one enrolment is 5 by 130,000, which equals 650,000. If your fees are 20,000, well, that's now 1.3 million. Then throw in federal and state government grants, we could be nudging up to 1.5, maybe 1.8 million, the value of one enrolment. So speak the language of business managers, numbers. If you're getting pushback and said, but I'm presenting this stuff, and they say, we can't afford to buy that, we can't afford not to buy it. So don't tell me we can't afford it. So the answer is, boom, boom, boom. If you want to attract more enrolments, have a written plan for a start. Don't do things on a whim. Use technology to your advantage. 3, place the family at the center of the universe. Technology allows you to put them, we're often guilty, I think, of saying what we need. What is it the family needs? One person once told me, Jack, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that proportion. Schools are great at speaking. Maybe we should be better at listening. And if we listen to families who are very anxious about this huge investment they are making, they want you to care and they want you to remember. So when that family rings up your school and they're an inquirer, wouldn't it be nice for the receptionist to know, yes, hi, Mary, we've got your daughter, Cindy. She's coming into Year 7, 2023, and your daughter loves robotics and mathematics, doesn't she? And I seem to remember, Mary, that you're an alumni of our school, aren't you? Now, imagine that experience has just lifted the likelihood of that inquiry going to an enrolment exponentially. Why? Because you've got the system to do it. So put technology, put the family, Jack, in the center of the universe, not the school, and a tech stack allows you to do so. And in terms of sort of a journey, and I'm sort of winding up here and I'll hand back to Michael and Jack in just a moment. You want to capture every lead because every lead is precious. You want to gather the right data about the family. You want to send personalized emails and communications to really amaze them. You've got to get them into events, whether they are open houses, virtual tours, one-on-one tours, information evenings, twilight days. Get them to your school. And then you want to make that journey of applicant to enrolment really easy. So some schools on the call, Jack, have a one-step application process. Some might have application, letter of offer, enrolment, scholarship, international, boarding forms, financial hardship forms. Our system, regardless of what forms you need, can create any single form. And here's the piece de resistance. This is really important. If you don't remember anything, remember this. 30% of the Australian population, these are not my facts, these are ABS, is born overseas. 49% had one parent born overseas, which is me. My dad was born overseas. So make sure your forms, whatever they are, that whatever people are filling out can render in any language. Well, Enquiry Tracker forms can render in any language. So if you want inclusivity, if you want to make people feel welcome at your school, if you're trying to attract a Chinese or Vietnamese or Indonesian community, well, make sure your data can render in their languages. It's very easy to do. That's what we've done. So again, make that over-deliver, engage, and really shine. So, it's about, making the journey spectacular. And this is where I'll finish up, Jack. This is a girls' school that's working with us in Tasmania. Great school. Make sure, for example, on your website, if you want to drive way more enrolments, here's a little tip. Make sure that on your website, you've got an easy enrolments button, because the purpose of your website, people forget this, is for future families. The rise of the portal is for current families. So if you've got stuff on your website that is not directed to the future families, strip it off. But right now, I want to request a prospectus, I want to book a tour, I want to apply now. And if I've got these up here, and if I've got a sticky header, have these buttons on every single page so that they are really easy to find. And when you click on them, it renders a form, and that's an Enquiry Tracker experience. So Jack, I might pause there. Michael, I might pause there and then perhaps hand back to you, because I'm conscious of sticking on time, and I'll just stop sharing my screen now.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks so much. Super helpful to have that, and really critical part of featuring, I guess, schools and how amazing they are, but presenting that in the way that customers these days expect. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us on the webinar today. We're going to move into the second half, which is talking now about securing and particularly retaining those enrolments, which we'll jump into now. And just to set the scene for timing, of course, we're going to keep this fairly on schedule. So I'll go through that for about 15 minutes, and that leaves a bit of time for Q&A at the end, and still get you out of here after our 45 minutes. All right. Just to introduce myself, my name's Jack. I'm the CEO and founder of a business called Edstart, which Michael has already talked a little bit about. And now, I guess, moving into that next phase of the enrolment journey, which is all about securing, and particularly what we're going to talk about here is retention, retaining those enrolments. What we're going to talk about is about nurturing. So the same nurturing that Greg talked about is required throughout the whole enrolment, which could be for a family that's going all the way through 13 years. That relationship may go on 20 years or more, as you guys well know. Identifying challenges early. This is one of the critical parts of either securing or retaining the enrolment. It's what is the challenge? What is the barrier to securing that enrolment? What is the challenge in retaining that enrolment? Matching family reality with school reality. This is the main thing that I'm going to focus on today. And flexibility being the new normal, and schools need to adapt to that. And we're going to look at a case study to help explain that, and touch again on the economic impact, exactly like Greg has done from an inquiry perspective. So the best way, I think, to explain a lot of those points, and if I call out some of those keywords, I'm talking about nurturing, talking about relationship, talking about flexibility, and matching of a school's reality with a family's reality. That's really what it is when we talk about best practice for both securing and also retaining enrolment. So we've got lots of examples through the last 2 years of particularly impacts caused by COVID, and just using an example here to talk through that kind of reality. So family reality and then school reality. So this is a family that had 2 students in a school late 2019, already hitting a couple of issues with their fee payments at that point in time, and basically then moving them to a fortnightly payment plan structure from the start of 2020, which was then set up to make things a little bit easier for them to handle. Just to talk about that as an example here, straight into an example of payment flexibility. Now, the reality of families, as you well know, is complicated. So here's just a very simple but very common example, which is to say, I've got my scheduled fortnightly payment this Wednesday, but here we go, family reality. My daughter has had to have this dental work done, and actually I can't make that installment on Wednesday, but I'm fine to continue the week after that. And this is just business as usual. This is reality for families. And then being able to just jump in and adjust that straight away. Skip that payment. The next one scheduled as normal. Then there's another issue, which often happens. This direct debit didn't actually go through. Can you talk to us about that? And of course, we'll fix that by doing a catch-up payment after that. So it's this concept of just small, flexible adjustments to make fees, payments, match with parent reality, match with family reality. As the story goes on, moving into 2021, the father in this household actually was stood down from his employment. So basically, through early period of 2021, not much in the way of fee payments could happen at all. But what ultimately was the case was it wasn't really until September that there was an ability to return to a normal cycle of typical school payments. So we're now talking about a full 9-month period where we're basically saying the normal payment structure has to go out the window. This family now has very limited ability to pay. What's the best way to manage that? What's the best way to support that family through there for, in this case, a 9-month period until things could resume. So this is all about that experience that allows the family to be in a sustainable position. If the family is retained in a sustainable position, then the enrolment is likely to be retained. And so during that period, won't go through all of the wording here, but there's more of this concept. Okay, we need to get away from scheduled payments altogether. I'm just going to pay you, $100 via BPay when I can. Yep, absolutely. That's easy to do. We'll accommodate that, no problem. So as we can see, sadly, that household income is messy. This is real data from a real school, a real family, about how their cash flow actually works through the year. And when you overlay into that family reality school fees, which could be termly in some cases, or could be, say, monthly, which is another common one for schools, as much as we would like them to be, they just don't fit. Those things do not compute, they do not line up. And that means that we're through all of those methods, we're introducing a barrier, we're introducing a pain point, which is to say, this is a big chunk of money, and it's coming out in a way that doesn't match my reality. And so the best, most effective way for schools to be able to retain enrolments in light of this family reality is exactly that concept that we're just talking about, this matching principle. The matching principle, which is to say, we need to be able to have parents pay fees in a way that matches their reality. And so to do that is hard, really hard. For one family, this is some data that Edstart tracked. This is a case now we're talking about where Edstart's being used in the school to manage all of the fee payments. This is all of the individual touch points with just one family in just 12 months, which is 36 emails coming in, 15 emails going out, another 18 calls being made, and that's mapped throughout the year. And then overlaid that with every single time something changed with that family's payment. So that's skipping a payment, rescheduling a payment, adjusting the payment amount, changing the payment method, changing the bank account, or if it's bank account, card, BPay, any of those things. This is the kind of work that's required to implement a matching principle concept. And that is the piece, again, coming back to Greg's point about using technology to make that easy, to make that achievable. So in this particular scenario, this is an Edstart scenario. Edstart has done this work. The school has been paid in full at the start of every term. Edstart makes those payments to the school, and Edstart is then having this constant interactivity with the family throughout the year to achieve that principle of matching the payment to the family reality. And of course, then we can measure the impact of that. If I take one example, school, which is a fairly small school, just 68 accounts, 13 of those had indicated throughout the 12-month period that it was really that flexibility concept is what allowed them to stay in the school. They specifically nominated. If it wasn't for that flexibility, they would have left. Now, 5 of those the school knew about because they were already receiving support, but there was a further 8 that didn't, a further 8 that were historically making perfect payments to the school. So really, that's where you start to see the economic impact of delivering that flexibility. 8 families in this particular school, it's actually mapped over 3 years, but we'll just look at the 2021 year. 8 families was 16 students, which was 128,000 per year of parent fees and another 160 of government funding. That's just in 1 year. So 1 year, 16 students, almost $300,000 of extra revenue retained for that school, which allows the school to continue to be sustainable, to deliver that experience to families, students, and get the graduate outcome, which is why we're all here. So that's the kind of economic impact then of actually delivering on that flexibility. Retained enrolments is something that has a massive impact on schools. So just summing up to give us some time for questions, nurturing a relationship all the way through from the very first inquiry, whatever that looks like, whatever that inquiry is, whether it's just a piece of conversation or a visit to the website, all the way through to securing that enrolment and then retaining it for hopefully, in some cases, many, many years. Identifying challenges early, being able to see when families are entering any difficulty, particularly with enrolments that are in place and fees that are being made, but also in the enrolment journey. Fees, we don't want to be a barrier to having an enrolment confirmed. Matching, which I've talked enough about. Flexibility, that is the expectation. That is the new normal. That's how most other payments in a family's life occur in a flexible way. And the result, of course, that's a significant economic impact for the school. So pausing there to keep us on schedule. And thanks so much for attending, and thanks, Greg, for your input, and just opening up for any questions that anyone might like to ask, which could be about what we've talked about, could be about Enquiry Tracker or Edstart, or perhaps what's going on in your schools right now when it comes to this topic of enrolments, things you're thinking about for next year. Please feel free to jump off mute and raise your hand here in the call, or pop anything into the chat if you'd prefer.
Jack, I've got a question just while people are thinking. It's Greg here. Obviously, the schools you're working with, the retention rates have improved, right? So that
Absolutely.
you're seeing demonstrable income. So you're seeing that, let's say I'm at St. Trinian's and I was, I've got 5% of families who are defaulting on their fees. That gap is now reducing by using your software, yeah?
Yeah, correct. And probably the biggest area is the families that weren't necessarily having issues with payment historically. So the school didn't know about them, but that they were leaving. People leave all the time for whatever reason they nominate, which is rarely the true reason. And what we simply do is just measure the before and after. How many students were leaving each year historically? How many students are leaving now that Edstart's in place? And it doesn't have to be Edstart. The concept is just extreme payment flexibility, whether that's done with Edstart or without. Extreme levels of flexibility to match with family reality. That is very much a demonstrable thing. So we've got that data from Edstart's side.
And that's really like what both Jack and I are saying is put the family at the center of the universe. Don't make that around what you need. Oh, we need fees done once a year because it's easy to do. Or we need it done 4 times because it's easy to do. Well, guess what? It's not going to be easy for family. And once upon a time, Jack, we sent all families letters in the mail. Well, families don't want to receive letters in the mail. Some want to be text, some want to be called, some want to be emailed, some want to be letters. We've got this idea of greater flexibility, which you've echoed, is really important. I see I've got a question there. How much is Edstart? I can tell them how much Enquiry Tracker is, but I don't know how much Edstart is. I'll give them figures on that in a moment, Jack. But what's the figures? What's the money on Edstart?
Yeah. So the Edstart service differs a little bit. Just to explain that, there's actually 2 different categories of families. You've got those families that are paying the school annually or termly. Edstart manages those fees and manages the payment through to the school. But as you can imagine, that money doesn't have to come out of Edstart's pocket. Then you've got the families that are paying periodically, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, or some other flexible arrangement. And with those ones, Edstart's then funding that money upfront to the school. And then the families are then paying that to Edstart throughout the year. So it really depends, Greg, on the mix of those families, how the pricing works. And we go through that with each school. So every school will get their pricing, but it's basically a percentage of those fees, but different for the two categories, which we will work through with each school to in terms of the pricing. That's how it works from our side.
Beautiful. I'm sure we've got a few more questions out there. Please feel free to type it in the chat. No question is too silly. Please just turn yourself off mute and just ask Jack and I. You've got a great chance we're going to be here for another 10 minutes. So Jack and I don't want to be just asking each other questions. We want you guys to ask. I'm sure there's loads. One of the things I got asked by one of my team that were just investigating, Jack, there's a lot of technology out there, right? And I know Jack and I run software companies and we don't like to see ourselves as a software vendor. We like to see ourselves as educational partners with your business to succeed, for the business to succeed, but more importantly, for the families to succeed. So it's a really, really great journey, but there's a lot of tech and you sort of think, oh, well, I add another software program to my system. Well, for us at Enquiry Tracker, we think you can replace some stuff and consolidate. So, if you're using things like MailChimp, Constant Contact, Eventbrite, Try Booking, HubSpot, Calendly, et cetera, CRM, Enquiry Tracker will replace all that for you. So it's also consolidation. And so you might say, well, actually, all those systems that I'm currently using, which are a bit disparate, they're a bit disconnected, they're not all kind of integrated. We will be able to consolidate that. What we won't be able to do, Jack's company and my company can't solve every problem you've got. So I know many schools want one piece of software to do everything. If anyone promises you that, alarm bells go off everywhere, please. Because what you'll get is a piece of software that does nothing very well. And what happens is what you want is best in class products like what Edstart do and what Enquiry Tracker does, and have them kind of work together, in a dynamic relationship. How much is Enquiry Tracker? Well, I'll give you the pricing. It's Enquiry Tracker is $3,000 to establish, one-off establishment fee. And you never pay that again. And that's been a fixed price. And then we have 4 tiers, Jack. We have for small schools, they pay $3,600 per annum. These are ex-GST prices. For a mid-tier school between 500 and 1,000, they're paying $5,400 per annum. For a slightly larger school between 1,000 and 2,000 students, they are paying $7,200 per annum. And if you're a very big school, say over 2,000, you're paying $9,000 per annum. And our prices have never gone up. And so we do not want to make price a barrier to entry. And we've got a little bit of a special on for this webinar, Jack. If someone does want to book a demo out of this and get going before the summer holidays, because remember, most inquiries and applications can be captured over the holiday season, then we'll waive any subs fees for the rest of the year and give people that free. So just a little bit back in the pocket for the people who've showed up today and booking a demo with us. No pressure, but we'd love you to become part of the Enquiry Tracker and Edstart family. So that's how much Enquiry Tracker is. That answers that question, I hope, Jack.
Great. And in the context of the value of an enrolment, that's
crazy.
That's pretty reasonable. You would have thought.
I would have thought so. Yeah, don't tell me you can't afford it. No, because that's what a lot of the business managers do. The people on our call. I'm not trying to be inappropriate, but often they've got to try to mount their case. What do you need this system for? If we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got. Do what you've always done, get what you always got. If you want to get a different result, you actually have to make a change. Now, maybe the change didn't work, you can always go back, but I think that look into Edstart, look into Enquiry Tracker. Obviously, Jack and I can give you a full demo. This is not about product sale here. This is about investigating technologies, whether it's ours or something else, to help you do your jobs better.
Absolutely. All right. Any other final call for questions?
Come on, give us a curveball. Someone, Monica, give us a hard question, Monica, that we can't answer, and we're gonna be, I know Magella's on the call. She'll give me a hard question. I know Julie's on the call. She'll give me a hard question. Come on, Alison's out there. Lots of familiar faces here. Teresa, hello, Alison. How are you going? Chanel's there. Helene's there. A lot of faces I know on this call. They're being very kind to us, Jack. They're not asking us hard questions.
Yes, they're being nice, Greg. That's right.
It's getting gearing up for the summer holidays, I think. I would have thought Monica would have given us something tough. She's just been too kind, Monica. Monica, for anyone who doesn't know, is the marketing guru at Edstart. But there's a little plug from Monica. See a happy face in the corner there, waving to us all. Come on, Julie, give me a question. Teresa. No. I tell you, I'm going to ask you, hey, here's one from, in all seriousness. How quickly can a school, if they give the nod to Edstart, here you go, how long does it take to turn it on? That was my question to you. Someone's just
right.
to get up and running with Edstart, how long does it take?
Yeah, to actually turn it on will take less than 2 days. Less than 2 days. The thing that takes time is partnering with the school on just embedding that and communicating it out to the school community, and that's what we work hand in hand on. The actual piece itself is super simple to turn on. That's not the hard bit. The bit that we really take care with is communicating that well into the parent community, embedding it into the existing reality for those families
and the future too, Jack. Because just think about this situation: Dad and Mum say, "Oh, look at the school fees; it's $30,000 a year. We can't afford that." But if they knew about the Edstart program, they were actually, yeah. And so you might be losing a genuine inquiry through almost, not through ignorance, but through lack of awareness, perhaps. Another question I think we've got here, Monica, what sort of support do you offer as marketing enrollment team? Some companies I feel set and then forget. I might answer this one for myself. I really pride our company, and I know you do too, Jack, on white glove service. We offer face-to-face support, not just some video you have to watch. We offer same-day response times, usually within the hour. No complex ticketing and say, I'll see you in 3 weeks when the ticket get answered. That's hopeless. And we offer fortnightly free professional development for all of our clients and customers, which I think is really important to really how to go from good to great. So what about you guys? What are you doing at Edstart to support, post the onboarding and things like that?
Yeah, so same broad concept. Face-to-face, we have people based all around the country. So every school gets their own, what we call a partner success manager. So face-to-face contact as much or as little as you need. And then the other critical thing that I think is good for people to be aware of is full visibility. So when a school is using Edstart, even though we're doing all of that management and all of that interaction with the families, the schools have a portal they can log into and look in that as much or as little as they would like. Obviously, all the fees are being paid anyway to the school up front, but to actually see what's going on with all the underlying families, that is visible as well. So that's one of the other key factors in addition to the face-to-face service that we have for school.
Well, nice comment from Fiona there. I don't know if everyone can see the chat, but a lovely comment from Fiona Molino to everybody. Just have a look at the chat message. Really cool. Fantastic, guys. Thanks for your support, Fiona. That's very, very, very kind. Look, I think we're nearly at the end of the 45 minutes. And Jack, remarkably, you and me, we've kept it tight.
Especially you. Well done.
Hey, look, hang on a second. I think I was 1 minute shorter than you.
No. That's great.
It's great to be great and I think you can see the spirit of the way that companies like Jack and mine are structured, very transparent, very honest, in terms of trying to give that great support to schools for you guys to succeed. And a special shout out to Chanel and Monica for putting all this together. They've done a power of work behind the scenes, and other people in Enquiry Tracker and Edstart have helped promote it and put it together. And I know that Monica's been recording it, and I believe the recording might be available next week sometime for dissemination. So, Jack, thanks from Enquiry Tracker to you. Happy to take any other questions from anyone, but anyone who wants to book in for a demo, or give me a call, greg@enquirytracker.net. That's all pretty easy. Thanks, Jack.
Great stuff. Thanks again, Greg, for your contributions. Thanks everyone for joining. And you'll see those updates come back out to you on the recording details as well. And if you want to get in touch, have a great day and rest of the week, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.